It's not incest. She doesn't want to bang her cousin. I promise. Look, growing up, Suguha didn't really have friendships or even get to interact with other kids her age like most children. In her home life, both herself and Kirito had a very strict grandfather. He forced them both to take up the sport of kendo and dedicate themselves to it seriously. This took up a lot of their time as kids, and so they didn't have the opportunity to form friendships with other kids their age. Pretty much, they only had each other. But that was fine. They grew very close to each other over this time period. As time went by and they rigorously dedicated themselves to kendo, as much as he tried, Kirito just couldn't find love for the sport, and so he stopped doing it. Their grandfather was extremely angry at this and started physically beating him. Suguha saw this, and trust me, if any of you guys have siblings, you know that tight bond that you share. That feeling of being willing to do anything for them. And so like any good sibling, Suguha intervened, declaring that if the grandfather were to stop beating Kirito, she would dedicate herself to kendo so completely that her efforts would make up for the retirement of Kirito from the sport. So, with that bargain with the devil struck, dedicate herself wholly is what she did. Her life became wake up, work on her physique, go to school, practice kendo, study, maybe practice more kendo, sleep, and then repeat. She competed in tournaments, probably attended training camps, and she got good. But she got good by putting in enough effort for two people. She had no other time for her hobbies or goofing off with classmates like normal kids. This meant that she still never had the opportunity to form friendships with other kids. She didn't even have Kirito anymore, for he had started avoiding her due to the guilt he felt from making her sacrifice all her time for his sake, as well as just not really knowing how he should be with her anymore after finding out that she is not his real sister. But since he was her one and only close friend, that distance between them now saddened her as she walked this path of isolation. Fast forward to when Kirito wakes up from his captivity in that iron castle, he actively made an effort to close that distance between them and become close again, like they once were. In his incarceration, he had reflected upon their relationship. He realized that avoiding her out of guilt was both cowardly and childish. Burning their bond over something like that was not what he wanted, so when he got the chance, he worked towards repairing that relationship. Suguha was at first confused, but then very quickly overjoyed at this, finally getting back that close friend that she had lost all that time ago for reasons unknown to her. It's very important to note here that they had never opened up and talked about what had happened during those years that they had stopped interacting, why Kirito had made the decision to give her the cold shoulder, and what she had thought when it happened. This unresolved conflict will rear its head later, but as they began getting close again, she was a bit confused as to what their relationship was and how she should feel towards him. Before this point, for all intents and purposes, Kirito had been out of her life pretty much. She had never got to interact with him as he avoided her like the plague. It had happened suddenly and without warning. As I said, when they were young kids, they were so close. Nothing had happened between them, so she was very confused as to why she was getting this sudden cold treatment, even speculating at points that there was just something fundamentally wrong with her that had driven him away. So when they reconnected all these years later, she had had a lot of time to reflect on their relationship, was quite regretful about how it turned out, and longed for those days where they were really close. So now finally getting back that relationship and being close with somebody her age for the first time in a very long time, as well as relatively recently finding out that Kirito wasn't her real brother, it left her a bit confused as to how she should feel now and what she should even feel. What should their relationship be? Now, people make it out as if when those feelings came to mind, she just burst into his room, ripped off his trousers, and sucked him dry with a force of 1,000 vacuum cleaners. But in reality, it's way more nuanced than that. At first, she was just confused, taking some time to reflect on the matter. Ultimately, she concludes that even if what she felt now was romantic in nature, she couldn't pursue that, as society looks down on that sort of thing, and even if it didn't, Kirito has a girlfriend, whom of which he is deeply in love with. So she decides that she should just get over it. And so, get over it is what she did. So many people seem to miss that. She literally just got over it. Even ended up meeting a mysterious boy that she took an interest in and started falling in love for him instead. Now, a lot of people say her falling for him is unrealistic, but it really isn't. You've got to take a step back and look at the context. Suguha is a young high schooler in a very developmental time in her adolescence. But not only that, remember, she doesn't get the chance to interact with other people her age that much and doesn't really have any friends. The closest she's come to having that in all this time is Rakan. But even that isn't really the sort of proper friendship you think of where you hang out all the time and share these things between you. Thus, she's more prone to quickly invest in relationships that she does create, due to longing for having that friendship that everyone around her seems to have, but that she could never get. So of course, when someone comes along with whom she clicks with, they're gonna get close faster than two people in a normal circumstance. It also makes complete sense as to why they click, due to the boy having all the same characteristics as the last person she truly got close with, as they are literally the same person. What was extremely unfortunate for her is that mysterious boy ended up being the very person that she had decided to get over her past feelings for. But these feelings that before were like a small little ember are now more developed, like a seed turning into a fledgling sprout, leading us to this very infamous scene.
全部忘れて諦めてキリト君のこと好きになろうと思った。もうなってたのよ。なのに。
This single scene has to be in the top 3 most misunderstood moments in the show, because to understand this scene, you have to actually engage your brain and understand Suguha's point of view. It's not a confession in which she declares her intent to bear her cousin's children like so many would have you believe. This is an explosion from somebody who has been taken over their limit and finally snapped. Remember, Kirito never sat down and talked with Suguha about why he suddenly started avoiding her for all those years. She had speculated for a while that maybe it was something wrong with her that had drove him away, but then eventually she found out that they were not really brother and sister. Instead, they were only cousins. Not only that, but she also found out that Kirito had already known that, so she thought that perhaps he saw no reason to care about her since she wasn't his real sister. She didn't want to believe in these resentful thoughts, but in the void of information created by a lack of communication, people naturally just fill in that void with what makes sense. And sometimes what makes sense is really unpleasant. Then Kirito comes back from the SAO incident and suddenly acts like everything is sunshine and rainbows between them, like when they were kids. Since he was still the only person her age she had ever formed a close bond with, she was willing to give it a chance, trying to look past those negative feelings created from the long separation. She liked the idea of getting back that relationship and had been yearning for something similar for years. But then, with these confusing feelings surfacing, her efforts to move on from it and finding that friendship that she had desired for years and even getting to explore her first real romance, only for it all to be cruelly ripped away from her in an instant, leaving her with an even bigger problem than she had started with. Add in the negative feelings hiding under the surface from the unresolved conflict between them from all those years of Kirito fobbing Suguha off as if she was a stranger, it was all just too much for her to handle in the moment. So, she snapped. It's very understandable, and now that I've laid out all the context for you, if you have any empathy at all, I'm sure you can see how this was a very unfortunate and nuanced situation. Now, here is the final and arguably most important thing. While her feelings at that point were more developed than they were originally, due to what I explained, so it's more painful to let go of them, she does indeed let go of them, because she is a good, sensible person who understands social norms, and that again, even if society were accepting of cousins dating, Kirito is deeply in love with his girlfriend Asuna. She doesn't want to harm that, so she lets go. I can't stress that enough. People act as if, even now, to this very moment in the story, she wants to bang her cousin, but that just isn't the case. For a long time now, already she has moved on from those feelings and wishes both Kirito and Asta nothing but the best in their romance. With that unresolved conflict between Suguha and Kirito finally aired, and the two of them talking and coming to an understanding, eventually being able to finally properly fix their broken relationship and truly become family. So the message here for all of you is not to run away from those hard conversations with those close to you. It will burden you, even if you don't realize it immediately. Don't wait for the burden to blow up in your face later down the line. Have the courage to communicate your feelings honestly. If you truly care about the person and that person truly cares about you, it will only strengthen your relationship and let it blossom for years to come. Thank you for watching the video. I've wanted to make this one for a really long time because it really does sadden me to see how much unfair flack Suguha gets. I hope I managed to help some of you understand her better, even just a little. How do you guys feel about Suguha? What are some of the moments in the series that you feel are commonly misunderstood? Leave a comment and, like always, I'll respond to any that I find interesting. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on the video. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers this year, and like always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Goodbye.